Chapter 6. Alonso stood in his darkened bedroom completely naked. It wasn't something he normally did at home, but here in the Caribbean, things were different. All he had to do was breathe the air into his lungs and he was aroused. There was a certain energy, like a charge, something he could feel more than touch. It was almost as if lightning had struck in that part of his mind where sexual desire resided. It had been one thing on the ship to allow Ticino leeway, let himself be lured down a path he had never followed. In fact, late the night before, they had been most indiscreet while on deck. They had been in shadows, but could still have been seen if someone truly had bothered to look. It was part of what added to the excitement of their hurried encounter. Being serviced, only semi-hidden from the others on duty, had been thrilling enough. But now that he was finally on the island, especially after having seen Arbol again, after touching him, Alonso felt as if a large fire were burning brightly and roaring somewhere inside him. But where was Arbol? Where did he live? Looking through the window in his room, beyond the barn and beyond the forest of trees to the clearing, where the slave quarters had been built and were now lit by the waxing moon, Alonso thought to search for him. He wanted to take Arbol's hand and share with him the pleasures of the flesh, show the tall, handsome slave all the things he had experienced.
If only he were here now.
Unfortunately, there had been no assignments left for Arbol, and despite the smile on his dark brown, almost black face, Alonso knew Arbol had been gravely disappointed. Alonso had tried to persuade his father, to no avail. The man refused to budge from his decision that Arbol was best left in the fields for his own protection. In private, Alonso had argued that after all this time, Raul would have forgotten about the lost baby, assumed him dead. But his father still refused him, finally confessing that due to Arbol's strength and size, he could do the work of 3 men. That type of field worker would be a tremendous loss. Then his father did something he had never done before. He abruptly ended the conversation. Still irritated by that, Alonso leaned into the night air and looked up at the moonlit sky. He spread his arms wide on the sill made from thick wooden timber.
Perhaps I should not have hugged him. To hell with it. I'm the master's son, and I will do as I please. What of that strange feeling when I touched and squeezed his arms?
Alonso felt a tingling coursing through him, numb yet still there, like the memory of a burn. It was as if Arbol had made an impression that lingered, one that was still very much alive despite how many hours had passed. All he could see in his mind, all he could smell, was Arbol. Alonso was sure Arbol would welcome his advances. He briefly wondered if Arbol had been with another man before. If he had, all the better. And if he hadn't, how exciting it would be to show him how it felt to have another man do such pleasurable things to him. As he thought of it, Alonso stroked his groin with his palm. He curled his fingertips around his pubic hair and tugged while his cock, thick, long, and tumescent, bobbed in the night air, seeking much-needed attention. A lone drop of clear liquid flowed and dangled several inches below the head of his cock. It sparkled in the moonlight. Alonso reached for it, brought it up to his mouth, and sucked on it. The salty taste only aroused him more. With a sigh, he knew he had to find a way to bring Arbol out of the sugarcane fields and into the house, into his bed. But first he had to find him. Turning from the window, Alonso hurriedly reached for the clothes he had worn earlier that day. He dressed, walked across the room, and opened the door.
What if I'm getting the wrong impression? What if I'm just imagining Audible wants the same thing? I'm sure he already has a girl or a boy, someone to take care of his needs. Why would he want to be with me? What if he expects to be friends or something more?
Alonso knew he might not be able to be as free with Arbol as he would have been in Spain, as they once had been. Things were different here. They were older now, and things were a bit more complicated. Confused, Alonso sighed and closed the door. He undressed slowly, then went back to the window. He stared up at the moon. Unable to stop thinking about Arbol, Alonso grabbed hold of his erection and stroked it. Fully aroused, he closed his eyes and threw his head back as he thought of Arbol and his big, pink, thick lips. He could almost feel them, slowly, lovingly caressing the entire length of his shaft. Alonso imagined himself coming on Arbol's face, smearing his lips with fresh, hot semen. He moaned as his body shook and convulsed from the force of coming, shaken to the very core. When he regained his composure, Alonso opened his eyes and looked down at the puddles where his seed had splattered. Surprised to see so much, he squatted and dipped his fingertips into one of the puddles. Sniffing his fingers, Alonso then brought them to his mouth and sucked on them.
If Father won't assign Arbol a job here at the house, I'm just going to have to figure out a way to spend time with him.